Hey guys, welcome to Something to Talk About. For those of you who have been following us for a while, this was previously titled Martin Ministry Moments. We decided to change it. Basically, we decided to change it to Something to Talk About because sometimes there's topics we want to talk about that aren't ministry related. So that's seriously the only reason for the name change. And so you can still find all of our videos on the Facebook page. That did not change, still the same page. And so for those of you who have been following us, welcome back. For those of you that are new, we will introduce ourselves so that everybody knows who we are. I'm Tina.
I'm Grant.
So we have been married for close to 25 years. We've been in some way, shape, or form, that whole 25 years, we have served in ministry in some way, shape, or form, while both working full-time jobs. So we have career experience, we have ministry experience, and we have hard knock life experience. So I think that's about it for who we are.
I mean, we could get into all kind of stories, but
yeah.
we'll do some of those later.
We'll probably do some specific episodes later.
For
so.
sure. But
Anywho.
in her saying that, this is kind of our heart. What we're doing now is kind of we're passionate about it. We think, I think that when you get older, God wants you to, from your experience you have, He wants you to tell other people the things you've went through. Maybe they're dealing with it that you've already went through. You can help them along the path. That's what this is about. So we're going to talk about a lot of different things, a lot of stuff. So we're just excited about it. I'm glad you're joining us.
All right. So to start us off, we are going to title this episode, Where Did We Go Wrong? So the inspiration for this episode, originally, I had found a documentary. I think I found it on Hulu. I don't really remember, but it said Jesus music. I was like, this is interesting. Let me see what this is about. And so it was basically the timeline and history of Christian music. And Grant works on the weekends. And so I was home by myself and I'm watching it, and it's basically the evolution of Christian music. And in that documentary, it referenced the church in California that, fast forward to this year, which is 2023, the Jesus Revolution movie. So in that documentary about Jesus music, it referenced that pastor, that movement. And while I was watching that documentary, I got so fired up, and Grant got home, and when he had another day off, I was like, hey babe, you gotta watch this documentary. It's very interesting. We've listened to Christian music our whole lives, and it's very interesting to see the evolution of it, the stories that some of the artists shared. If you're a fan of Christian music, I highly recommend it. And there's some people that you might have a heart change about. I know Grant watched one and he was like, oh Lord, because he wasn't a fan. And I said, but wait, you need to listen and look at, her story. And anyway, talked about how it was interesting because in the midst of that Jesus music documentary, it said the world is far more forgiving than the church. That's a problem, y'all. That's a problem. So fast forward, you want to say anything about the documentary before I?
No, I was going to say about the documentary. You've already said it, but I'm sorry, I'm not your typical, I don't listen to, I'll quite honest, I don't listen to worship music a lot, but I do like listen to contemporary Christian. That is my jam. I mean, from, you name it, to Michael W. Smith. We can go back to DC Talk days. I mean, I like it all, guys. There's great music out there, but this documentary, she's right. Once I watched it, and see, once you go to the story of someone, don't take it for face value, what you just see the media showing and what you actually know about them, it changes perspective. And I had a heart change. I felt bad. I asked forgiveness. I'm just saying, if you like Christian music, if you don't even like Christian music, watch it. It'll give you a new perspective on what's about. It's good. Go ahead.
All right, so fast forward to the movie this year. So it's called Jesus Revolution. And it talks about Chuck Smith and his church in California. And it was an old stuffy church. And it got revitalized by a hippie preacher. So the hippie preacher came in and Of course, there were stuffy church people that didn't like it and left, but there was way more who stayed and way more who came in than what left. And so you had all different walks of life coming together. Y'all, in this movie, it shows barefooted hippies coming into church, sitting on the floor, crowding the floor, along with your little staunch, stuffy suit coat and those people. Now you do see the suit coat people kind of, filter off of their suit coats. Thank the Lord. But again, this was in the 70s, okay? And I'm just going to be honest with y'all. I've been frustrated with the church, if you say capital C church, big church, however you want to think about the church as a whole. I've been super frustrated with the church since COVID. Why? In my opinion, and again, y'all, this is my opinion. You can have a totally different opinion. That's great. That's fine. That's what this world is about. Different opinions, despite popular belief. We're all supposed to be able to voice our opinion and still love each other, regardless if we agree or not. But anywho, I've been frustrated since COVID because in my opinion, COVID was the opportunity for the church to shine, for the church to be like, we're the hospital for America. I don't mean sickness. I mean, we're the hospital for your broken soul. We're where you come for safe harbor. COVID was our time to shine and reach the world and really show them the love of Jesus. But instead, and I'm going to try not to offend anybody, so I'm not going to mention specific names of political people, but instead we jumped on wagons and of one side or the other, and we became so divided. We were ugly to our families. We were ugly to our friends. It was awful. I don't even know what to say. There are things that happened over the last 3 years in the name of Jesus that make me sick to my stomach. At the church as a whole, I think missed the boat during COVID. So it's weird to me now because like you can sit and people will say, we are more divided than we ever have been. Here's the bizarre thing. I'm watching that movie and the movie's kind of told through several different vantage points, but there's a reporter that has heard about what's going on at this church. So he's going to report and like do a story on this church. And him and a young Greg, and I'm probably going to say his name wrong. To me, it looks like Laurie. I don't know if that's right or not. But the reporter and a young Greg Laurie are talking. And they're talking about the divisiveness in the world and the division and everything wrong. Y'all, you literally could have taken that clip of that movie and put it on a headline today. What we're dealing with today on our division in our country is not new. It's new to this generation. I've always told Grant there's an ebb and flow to our economy. There's an ebb and flow to what happens in our politics, to what happens in our world. You can argue with me and say, no, it's different. It's different because it's in your time frame. You don't remember like market crashes of the 80s because it wasn't important to you then, but fun fact, it happened. Mm-hmm. There was division in our country. There was all kinds of things.
Disasters.
Yeah, 100%. Every generation has its own disaster, its own political, like, I don't know, hot topics, whatever you want to say. So anyway, but the interesting part to me, I just sat there and I was like, wow, this is in the 70s and all different walks of life were coming together for one purpose. And that purpose was to show everybody Jesus. And so the hard part for me, as I go to this movie and I have people walking out and they're like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. I have people posting on Facebook, you gotta see this. Now, I don't disagree. You need to see the movie. And they walked out excited. I walked out heartbroken. Because my thought was where did we go wrong? In the 70s, we were there. And it's bizarre to me that each generation also prays so heavily for revival. Okay, you had it in the 70s and it was mismanaged. Was I alive? Yes. Was I in the midst of it? No. Did I see the residual effects of it being mismanaged? 110%. So we somehow went from hippies, I can't remember what they called them in the movie. Hippies and stiffs, I think. I can't remember. But all different walks of life worshiping together, and I don't care where you came from, and you don't care where I came from. We went from that to, if you don't have on a 3-piece suit and you're not dressed right and your clothes aren't ironed right and you don't look right, you can't come to my church. You don't look like me, you don't dress like me, you don't smell like me, so you can't come here. And in order to come here, this is another thing, in the 70s, when this Jesus Revolution movement went, it was come as you are. You're messed up. There's a scene in the movie where this kid is totally drunk out of his mind, and one of the preachers runs out, meets him in the street, and he said, I'm gonna pray with you. I'm gonna pray with you. We're gonna get through this. And they walked people through their hard times. But the church that we grew up in, and we're not throwing shade because we're thankful for our upbringing in church, 100%. However, the church we grew up in, you had to be in this box. And when you come in, everything's fine and good. Because we got in our heads the idea that if we said something was wrong, that somehow related to there was something wrong with Jesus. No.
I didn't watch the movie. I'm just hearing her talk about it. I could talk a lot about the things I think we've missed, that we've pushed to the side, all because of our uncomfortableness. I mean, I don't know what word that makes us feel uncomfortable. That's the problem, I think. It makes us feel different and weird, so we don't like it, which it's the weirdest thing ever that we go in that kind of a shelter mode, like, oh no, that's too weird, get away from me. Because I can imagine what these people looked like, how they were dressed. I mean, I can imagine, okay, and how they acted. It wasn't like we act now, okay, because they were probably lost and they found something that fulfilled them, okay. Once you do that, it changes your life, okay. And the problem with church today is, I think she's hit it on the nail. She nailed it. We, as the big church C, try to change people. It's not our job to change them. Our job is to open the door, present the gospel. The gospel, I think we need to figure out what that means today too. We've lost the meaning of the gospel, okay? Do that and let God work on them. We got a huge problem, guys. When we, growing up in the 90s, nobody knew what side you were on. They didn't talk about it. Were you a donkey or elephant? Well, no one cared. Nobody cared. You know what they cared about? You bleed red, white, and blue. That's what we cared about then. I'm proud of being American. I'm proud of it. Now, if you have a different view than me, you can go to hell. That's the church. That's the church. That's not my job at Walmart. That is the big C church saying this. If you don't want this, you can go somewhere else with that. Shame on us.
There has been mega churches come out of COVID that basically were screaming from pulpits that literally what Grant just said, a certain population of people can just go to hell or you're not welcome here.
True.
Y'all all over politics, all over things related to COVID. Y'all lived through it. Thank you, Jesus, that you lived through it. But you know what I'm talking about. I don't have to go into all of that. But what's so, it's just heartbreaking to know that we were there and then we missed it. So I don't want to be completely negative. This is what I walked away from the movie feeling. I walked away from the movie feeling like if enough people go to this movie, maybe they can make the correlation that there has been division in our world before. And since they overcame it and experienced a great move of God, then just maybe the movie will inspire people to lay aside their differences for the glory of God, because that's what we're called to do.
Can you answer me a question real fast?
Yes.
You're on something. You said it a while ago. I should have said it earlier when you said it. Also, you said the word revival. I want to hit this real fast. Answer me this. We don't know what that is.
No.
We got a bad perception of what we think it is. And we don't know what that is.
It's not.
We think it's praying loud, speaking in tongues real loud, falling out in the spirit. That's revival. That's your revival. You come on. We need to understand what these things mean and what they mean. I want revival, God. Okay, then have revival. Why does it got to be this production? Revival is not a production.
That's where we get off, is because we're on a production base.
Yeah. What does it look like, God? Lights, camera, action. Whoa, whoa.
Revival starts in the hearts of man.
These guys in the 70s didn't care what you thought about them. They didn't care about that. We do today. Oh, I got to be fixed up, man. I got to make sure the note's right and everything's perfect. That's where we messed up. Not that God doesn't like good things. He likes things that are good. He likes things that are in order. But when we let good and order get in the way of God doing something, we've messed up. That's where we've gone wrong. We don't know what revival means. We don't know what the gospel means. We've taken our interpretation and just twisted it all up.
And basically, I feel like in today's world, we've complicated everything. And I don't understand. So the good thing about the movie is Greg and his wife, they got married and they started a church in California that is still in existence today.
Oh, wow.
I'm not going to get all of the stuff right, so I'm not even going to try. But the interesting thing is they started baptizing people on the beach. People were coming from all over, and people were hearing about this move and traveling to see this. And of course, I've been to too many Marvel movies, so I don't ever leave now. Movies. I'm still the one sitting, like, I don't care what kind of movie it is. I gotta sit there because something might happen because Marvel has ruined us all. Yeah. And so you have to stay till the credits and then the credits and the credits because something might happen. So they're telling the history, and it says that to this day, they still have baptisms there. So they obviously grabbed on to something real. It wasn't manufactured. But it's interesting to me, and that's another thing I wanted to say is this Pastor Chuck, that was this old, just stuffy white guy, allowed this random hippie to come in, and at first he didn't want to talk to him. Does that remind us of ourselves anytime? You see somebody, you're like, I don't really want to talk to them. Okay. But what if God sent that person in your life for a reason? And so he opens his home and his family to this guy. Now, also fun fact, that's not the guy who saw the movement all the way through. He was the catalyst that opened the door and bridged the gap. God still used him. So my hope, again, in watching the movie, is that people will set aside their differences and that we can truly become the church that God intended us to be. And if you're confused, if you're like, okay, Grant, Tina, I don't know much about this church thing. What is my role as a Christian? What is my job? Okay, so here's the deal. It's all summed up real good for you in Matthew 22, verse 37 to, I believe, 40. All right. So, let me go back up. Let me go back up to 36. So they're asking him, "Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law?" Jesus replied, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and the prophets hang on these two commandments. You do this and you're done. So basically, your job as a Christian, love God and then go show his love to everyone you encounter. Everyone. I was talking to someone today, and you can get upset for me mentioning this. I don't really care. I'm just gonna be, I'm not trying to be rude. I was talking to someone today that told me a horrendous story about how a Christian organization treated someone of the LGBTQ plus community. My question is, like, they ostracized this person as a Christian community. My question is, what does Jesus feel about that? What would he have done? And I hear all of these people that are like, we need that good old fire, hell, brimstone preaching again. Can you show me that, please? I also would ask you, at what point in your life, whether it be you were overeating, fun fact, that's a sin, overspending, indulging in too much of whatever, because we've all done something. At any point, did someone come up to you that noticed what you're doing and start screaming at you? Grant, you're eating too much. Tina, you're spending too much money on shoes. Insert your name and whatever your vice was. At any point in your life when you were doing things that you knew were wrong, but you were doing them anyway, did someone come up screaming at you? Did that change your mind? Did that help you? Did that change your mind? No? Okay. So, the Bible gives you countless examples of where Jesus met people where they were.
I got a bunch of those.
Loved on them. Sent them on their way. So why would we think our job as Christians would be any different? Like Grant said, our job is not to change people. Mm-hmm. Our job is to love them, show them the love of God, lead them to Jesus, and leave the rest of the Holy Spirit. Period. End of story. So my prayer is that we can have, and I don't even know if I would want to call it a revival. I would say like maybe a revitalization of what the church as a whole should be. We should not be arguing amongst ourselves about denominational rules. We should not be arguing amongst ourselves about I'm better than you and you shouldn't be in the worship team and you shouldn't lead a small group. Just stop. And maybe when that person that doesn't look like they're super comfortable walking in your church, maybe instead of following them around to make sure they're not going to mess up anything, maybe invite them to sit with you on the second row. Maybe go to your coffee bar if you have one and say, hey, let me fix your coffee. Because the last time I checked, the Son of God came not to be served, but to serve. Why are we above that?
Speaking of examples, I'm big on using the Bible for examples because Jesus he's the perfect example. There's no better example than him. I have three favorites, I guess, in the Bible that he exemplifies this loving people thing. First one is when he met the woman at the well. That's one of my favorite stories. This lady was doing totally wrong. Not living right at all. And he knew it. He knew it. first thing he asked that lady for? He didn't ask anything about her life. Not one thing about her life. He said, "Can I have a drink of water?" How stunned would you be if the Son of God that knows everything asked you for a drink of water? Something's up. What's up? What's up here? You're asking me for a drink? I don't understand. And then he starts telling this lady about her life. She runs to the city. Says, "You got to come see this man who told me things he shouldn't even know. Come meet this guy." He never condemned her one time.
No.
Not once.
No.
How dare us be so arrogant that we can think we're above this somehow? That we weren't saved by grace in a funny way? We were saved out of the womb? Shame on you. Shame on you. Next example, I love this one. This is almost the all-time favorite. When the lady got caught in the act of adultery, we're not getting this story about where's the man. That's another story in itself. He gets a pass. He's a male. That's another topic. We'll talk about that. I promise you. We'll get on and talk about that. It was a setup all the way. But she got pulled out in the midst of the crowd. And what does Jesus do? What an amazing thing. He could have condemned her. Guess what? She was wrong. She was. But what did he do? He got down. Well, actually he told the guys, "Hey guys, any of you have never sinned before? You go ahead and cast the first stone." And one by one, I think they said, from the oldest to the youngest left. Then he gets down and says, "Hey, were those guys that accused you? Where they at?" She looks up. Man, they're out there. He said, "Neither do I accuse you. Go." What?
Yeah.
And somebody comes in that doesn't look, act, smell, talk like me, and I'm saying, "Go to hell." Can I tell you something? I love the church. All church all of my life. I love it. I'll die for it probably. Okay? But let me tell you something. There's got to be a change. There's got to be a shift. We have to go back to loving people how Jesus did.
Yep.
Whatever it means. We may have to suck our pride up. Be humble. Can I tell you another thing? We've made the church a building, and it's not that. That building,
Like we're on the same page. I was about to say that.
the building is only the building. When you leave, guess what? The presence of God is not there. I've been there at night.
That's creepy.
You hear noises and things move. I'm telling you, we have the Spirit of God inside of us. When we're there, He's there. When we leave, He goes with us. Quit making that building only place you can have church. I had church last night at Torchy's Taco. I had church. I'm sitting at a table, and this young man working, I remember his name, but I'm not going to tell you his name, none of your business. We had a great conversation. You know what? We never mentioned church or Jesus one time to him.
No.
But guess what? He left fulfilled. He left with a purpose.
Yeah.
See, guys, that's our job all along. And we've made God into a box. Okay, God, we're in church. Open the box up. Now you can come show off. What? That doesn't make any sense to me. Why can't you go to Chili's and let God show off? Why can't you go to Torchy's Taco and let God do His thing? Go to the park. Guys, there's people hurting all around us. But you know what the problem is? This is so bad me saying this. We've come with such an arrogant spirit that we're going to heaven. Who cares about anybody else? I've got my ticket punched. Wow, really? So you're okay with you going and that single mother in the park with her kids that has no hope? You don't care about her. Or that man in Torchy's Taco that has no purpose. Guys, where did we go wrong? He was there in the 70s. He was there in the 80s. And I believe I experienced him in the 90s. And I think he's here today. I think we've just made church a comfortable place. That's a good word to use. We've made it to our comfort level.
Yeah.
And when it goes out of that comfort zone, we shut it off. Whoa, I said have your way, God, but hold on, I got only 30 minutes to preach. What? Hold on a minute. Wait a minute. So what if you don't preach this Sunday? Maybe God's got something special for everybody. Maybe He's got something to pour out. Because the Bible says He'll pour His Spirit on all flesh. The Bible says that in the time, He's going to pour it out. That may mean you never preach another sermon. You better be prepared for that. I'm talking about big C pastors. Everybody. You better be ready. If you want it. Now, somebody said this one time. My mom and dad were talking. He's not going to pour it out unless you let Him. You got to open it up.
We were always raised that He's a gentleman.
Yeah, definitely is.
He's not going to force Himself on you.
He is a gentleman.
But when Grant was talking about it's not the church building, I think we also forget sometimes that each and every one of us has our own calling and our own ministry.
Ooh, man.
You don't have to be someone with a title, because guess what? You will come and encounter people in your daily life, in your job, in your comings and goings, that the pastor of your church will never encounter.
It's true.
So guess what? It's your job to show them Jesus. Grant and I we would have to sit here for the whole night if we told you all the stories over our 25 years of encounters. And fun fact, every time, without fail, and if you're listening and you're like, I'm sick of this, the work is hard,
Been there.
you're not alone.
It's definitely not alone.
But I'm telling you, every time we get on the verge of this is not worth it anymore, and this is too hard, God sends someone
Yeah, he does.
through our path for us to minister to, and then we go, well, crap, I guess we're going to keep doing this. And some of you are offended that is my attitude, but the issue is you're not being honest. You felt that way too.
You're not being honest.
So go do what you're called to do. But I hate to tell you this. You're called to love all your neighbors. The ones you like, the ones you don't like, the ones who live like you, the ones who don't live like you, the ones who are the color you are, the ones who are not the color you are, the ones who vote like you vote, the ones who don't vote like you vote. Are you getting the point, or should I keep going? Love everybody, regardless.
I know we got to be done in a minute,
wrap it up.
but I do want to say one more thing. I think also we're and I know I'm going to try to wrap this up. Where we've messed up too, and I should have said it before. We've messed up because we've made Christianity a competition. Yeah, I'm a better Christian because this, and put this in there. I'm better at serving God because of this. Wait a minute. That doesn't even make any sense. This is not a competition, guys. We're all in this race together. And it's a marathon. The Bible calls it, you run and don't quit. It doesn't matter if you're first, second, third. It matters if you finish the course and go to the finish line.
Yep.
That's all that matters.
Yep.
The completion, that's what matters. But we've made it where, oh, well, I'm giving this much, so I'm better than you. Or I'm doing this kind of sermon, I'm better than you. Or I live on this side of town, so I'm way better Christian. What? Or I'm this denomination, I'm better than you. I could go on, okay? It's not a competition.
How about we all link arms together?
I think that's what God intended all
And
along.
100%.
Help my Methodist brother. Help my Baptist brother and sister out.
Yep.
Whether you like it or not,
Wait,
help the
hold
Catholic
on.
guy
Help
out.
the Catholic brother.
Come
Yes,
on.
yes.
Where do we get off?
Yes.
And we're the best all of a sudden. We're the top,
I'm the
whatever
end-all
it is.
be-all.
No, we're not.
So I want to wrap up with all of this. So there's been great moves of God. You go back to Azusa Street. You can go to this revival in the 70s. You can go to what's happening at the college right now.
The Florida one too that happened that time. Remember the Brownsville?
Yes.
Yeah, that was huge.
I would venture to say all of those mighty moves of God, you know where they went off track? Where man's ego got involved.
Look at what we're doing here.
Get yourself out of the way, because it ain't about you.
It never is.
And I hate to tell you this, but God's work is going to continue whether you say yes and do it right or not.
It's true.
So, wrapping it up, my hope is that everybody that sees Jesus Revolution, and I know some of y'all are watching this and you're like, I can't believe she felt that about the movie. Well, I'm sorry. It's been burdened on my soul since I watched it. But it also gives me hope because I know we've done it before. We can do it again. Only if we get out of the way. Jesus, come do what you want to do through us. And let me set all my differences aside and stop bringing all that crap up. Because, like he said, elephants and donkeys, y'all need to be able to sit by each other in church and not be jacked to each other. Just saying. So the verse we used earlier, Matthew 22,
Good verse.
36 through 40. You love God, and then you love your neighbor like yourself. You take pretty good care of yourself,
I hope so.
so take care of your neighbor. And then there's a couple of quotes I want to leave you with. When we were talking about your ministry, how you treat people. If you don't think how you treat people matters, listen to this quote. Preach the gospel at all times. Use words if necessary. Because I promise you, if your actions don't coincide with your words, you just need to shut your mouth. You can say, I love you. You can say, I care about you. But if your actions don't equate those words, I'm going to go back to, that's a clanging cymbal.
What an annoying sound.
Creaky gate. Y'all can look those verses up on your own.
They're there.
But we talked about different denominations, so let's give a shout out to our Methodist friends. It's an amazing quote by John Wesley. Do all the good you can.
Oh, man.
By all the means you can. In all the ways you can. In all the places you can. At all the times you can. To all the people you can. As long as ever you can. Find somebody to love on today.
Well,
And we will see y'all next time. We're glad to be back. And we will see you soon. We love you and thank you for joining us. You can get us on Facebook, and fun fact, we're going to put our podcast, the audio version, on Spotify.
hey, thanks, guys. We love doing this, and we want you to take a listen. Hey, we're going to be back and have some fun topics. Anyway, we love doing it, and we love you guys. Thank you for listening.
All right. Y'all have a great night, day, whatever, whenever you're watching this. All right. Love you. And we'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.